23 नवंबर 1942 को दूसरे विश्व युद्ध के दौरान एसएस तिलावा ज़्यादातर भारतीय नागरिकों को बॉम्बे के बेलार्ड पियर से मोम्बासा, मापुता और डरबन तक ले जा रहा था। हिंद महासागर में सेशल्स द्वीप समूह के पास एक जापानी पनडुब्बी द्वारा टारपीडो किया गया था। एसएस तिलवा छोड़ दिया था 20 नवंबर 1942 को शाम 5 बजे भारतीय टाइम के अनुसार। ब्रिटिश इंडिया स्टीम नेविगेशन कंपनी के स्वामित्व वाली और 10,006 टन सशस्त्र सहयात्री सह कार्गो लाइनर एसएस तिलावा 6,472 टन सामान्य कार्गो के साथ भारत से अफ्रीका के रास्ते में था। पहले टारपीडो के बाद उस दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण रात को 1 बजे मारा गया। अधिकांश यात्रियों ने जहाज को 10 लाइफ बोट और 43 लाइफ राफ्ट में छोड़ दिया। दूसरा टारपीडो 1 घंटे बाद एसएस तिलावा से टकराया। एसएस तिलावर पर सवार 958 लोगों में से 252 यात्रियों और चालक दल के 28 सदस्यों की मृत्यु हो गई। जीवित बचे लोगों को अतंत ब्रिटिश नौसेना के जहाज HMS बर्मिंघम और एक अन्य जहाज SS कार्थेज द्वारा बचाया गया और भारत वापस लाया गया। सन 1924 में कमीशन किया गया एसएस तिलावा भारत और पूर्वी अफ्रीका में विभिन्न बंदरगाहों के बीच यात्रियों, मेल और कार्गो का परिवहन करता था। तबाही एसएस तिलावा के डूबने से जीवित बचे लोगों और उनके वंशजों के जीवन पर कहर बरपा, जो लगातार 1 दशक बाद नष्ट हो गए। और एसएस तिलावा क्यों डूबा, इसका रहस्य आज तक अनुत्तर है। एसएस तिलावा के अंतिम ज्ञात जीवित व्यक्ति 83 वर्षीय अरविंद जैन है, जो वर्तमान में दक्षिण लंदन में रहते हैं और जिनकी मां ने अंतिम जीवन की नाव में कूदने से पहले उन्हें एक सीढ़ी में लपेट दिया था। जानी 3 साल की थी जब ये त्रासदी हुई थी। आज 23 नवंबर 2022 को एसएस तिलावा के प्रस्तावित स्मरण उत्सव ने बॉलीवुड के हितधारकों को दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण समृद्धि त्रासदी पर आधारित एक वेब श्रृंखला की शूटिंग के लिए प्रेरित किया है। ऐसे जाबाज को सहारा अधिकार की तरफ से बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। देश और दुनिया की तमाम खबरों के लिए देखते रहिए सहारा अधिकार। Hello friends, I welcome all you to Sahara Adhikar channel. Today we are at Mumbai Press Club CST and we have a very special guest with us. His name is M.I. Solanki. He is the executive of Canada Tilawa 1942.com. We will ask him the reason as to why he has taken the press conference in Mumbai Press Club. We will have a complete discussion on this issue. So welcome to Sahara Adhikar channel. As we can see that there are a lot of people over here and you have taken a wonderful press conference. So I want to know, and my viewers also want to know, what is the reason behind taking this press conference?
Yes, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Tomorrow, November 23rd, 1942, is the 80th anniversary of the forgotten tragedy of the SS Tilawa. It's an Indian story of the Indian people from the middle of the Second World War, 3 years before the war ended, and 5 years before the end of British rule here in India. And there were 732 passengers, 4 gunners and 222 crew. 958 people in total were on the SS Tilawa, leaving the Ballard estate, the Ballard Pier, for a final time on November 20th. And 2 days later, in the middle of the Indian Ocean, on the way to South Africa, about 930 miles northeast of the Seychelles, the Japanese Matsu team, the I-29, destroyed Tilawa. There were 2 torpedoes, and we understand that there was a gap of about 60 to 90 minutes between both of these torpedoes. We do not know why the Japanese attacked the SS Tilawa. Was Tilawa contributing to the war effort? Was Tilawa a military threat? Did the Japanese know that there were precious metals and precious cargo on board? And so after the ship sunk, people were trying to survive and get into one of the 9 lifeboats or to grab onto a raft. Fortunately, sadly, 280 people lost their lives. One of those people was my great-grandfather, Nichabai Chibabai Salanki, from the village of Kocholi in Gujarat near Navsari. And he, at the time, left one son who was 9 years old. And he was my grandfather. And so we're grateful that he left one child behind. And I'm here today talking to you. And I have with me the last known survivor. We actually have 2 survivors that we know of. Mr. Arvindbhai Jani is now 83 years old from South London, UK. And Arvindbhai was 3 years old at the time when his mother jumped into the last lifeboat, wrapped him in a sari, and actually took the courage to get into that lifeboat. Would you like to say something?
So as we can see that as your son has mentioned that it was a very tragic incident and many people have lost their life, and you are among the lucky ones who have survived, and you are taking a press conference on us. How was the experience when you were on the boat, and what are those things which kept you motivating, and what is the thing that which made you know that I should not give up, and like what was the motivation behind that? Can you explain in short words?
The motivation was that my mother's courage, and her courage helped a lot to survive himself, and she worried more about her child, which was 3 years old, that somehow he must save the child. That was very important at that time.
What was the scene of the war like when the 2 crews were fighting and you were there, and what was going in your mind, and like were you having any hope that you would return to your land once again?
Well, it was Second World War, and my mother still took a chance. And then in a chance, she traveled to India by ship, where my father said, "Don't go, please." But she wanted to go somehow, and she was very, very, very positive that she will make it. At that time, she didn't know the war will try to hit the bomb, even the passenger ships. And Japan did it. And my mother, when the bomb was bombed, and she knew that she has to survive somehow, she tried to tie me up at the back and tried to save herself with the baby and tried to jump. She came down from the spring, just down to the boat. And we were just lucky to survive that time.
What was the last scene of the rescue operation, or like when the boat was about to, like when the war was going on, what was the last scene you remember that this was the happiest moment for you? Now I can, peacefully go to my home. Can
No,
you share
what
some
happened
memories?
was that I was only 3 years old, so I don't remember much. But only due to my mother used to tell the story about this. Every now and then, whenever people meet, they always ask the story about the World War and how to survive in the ship. And then she knew that she had a baby who was 3 years old. That's how I came to know the story, because she used to tell a lot of other people about her survival and the baby's survival.
And thank you so much.
And think of all of the families that have, think of all of the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren that have come from Mr. Jani because he survived. And if his mother did not have the courage to jump from the ship into the lifeboat, he wouldn't be here today. So it's a real honor, it's a real privilege to have Mr. Jani with us. And we thank you so much for your interest in this story.
Thank you.